Hi, I'm Dr. Gordon Hassick, and welcome to Choices. Most of us are busy people. Our days are filled with activities and work that keep us going morning, noon, and night. In the course of one day, we'll make thousands of decisions. And when you think about it, it can seem exhausting, and sometimes it is. Our lives are filled with choice, all of the time. But there's sometimes we want to make a choice and we can't. Something stops us. Choices is a series about hope, but this particular program is about fear, the fear of making choices. Fear guides us more than we realize. It's an emotion that we've gotten so used to that we don't even recognize it. But what's one way to notice it? Well, that's to start observing ourselves. But how do we go about doing that? What's the best way to observe that fear inside and figure out the best way to use it to our advantage? Well, that's the topic of this program. And as you'll see, there's no one right answer, but there's some guidelines. We can start relying less on this emotion and start to live the lives that we really want. By observing how much fear guides us, we can start to make the choices that really count for us.
Take somebody who's, and there's a lot of people that we work with, their lives are pretty good. They have families that they love dearly. They have jobs that provide them with plenty of security. And so they're sitting there over a cappuccino saying, I'm a little bored. Life's not what it could be. Okay? I'd like to do something about it. Great, definitely, you can. Here's some things you can do. We start asking them some questions. We go through some, some discovery of what's been going on and why and what's been driving it. And then we start to say, okay, now you have some choice about this. You say, well, okay, well, let's see. Let's look at the opportunities here. What are my choices? It's not for me to say what are your choices, but let's do some discovery with that. What are the options here? What have other people done? Open up the book on that. They get it all down, it all sounds great, and say, now, the critical moment, go do it. And all of a sudden the mind has this way of coming up with, well, all these things you're going to lose, and all these things that you're going to threaten, and all the things that might not work, and all the what ifs, and the harbinger of doom that seems to live in our head wants to take away that inspiration that you had when you were sitting in the safety of that cafe with a cappuccino and didn't have to do anything yet, and talk you into doing the same old thing.
We feel we need to conform to the standard norm or to what someone else is telling us, rather than to really looking inside and learning to listen to what's right inside of us. We know, we always know, but there's that battle between the mind and the heart, or the intuition.
If you had no idea those thoughts would come up and those feelings would come up, you actually will still have them, but you'll believe they're the truth. They represent the truth. And they represent some real legitimate concerns and fears, and this choice is really not a good idea. And then your mind will begin to work in a way to undermine the choice that you had come up with in those moments of clarity, and come up with all kinds of excuses and reasons to justify why it's not that good of an idea. Before you know it, you're back in that coffee shop, having a cappuccino saying, you know, I think there's more in life than this. And you can do that the rest of your life. Sit around with a few friends, commiserate, but it's not enough. And that's the person, I think, that has sometimes the biggest challenge, because they don't have the drive of desperation and fear. They actually have to create their drive from inspiration, from passion, from a dream, from a mission that's important to them. And if they don't have that, then it's difficult.
It's a matter of having the courage to say, this feels right inside me, and I really choose to follow this, as opposed to what my someone else is telling me to do because of their reason or some other reason. And having the courage to take that step in the choices that we make and we know are right. We always know.
It's more common than we realize. Most of us want to make choices, but we back away from doing so out of fear. Realizing how much fear guides our lives is the first step in making choices. But
it doesn't always happen right away. I think there's an intermediate kind of situation or step in there, and that's insight. I call it aha, you know, and when the penny drops. But again, insight isn't enough because you have to then move on and take responsibility. So it's a process. It's a process of self-discovery. It's also an experience of vulnerability. It means learning how to take risks. It means learning how to expose oneself, to be open. And none of us are all that good in that area because we at various times in our life or in certain situations tend to wear our masks. We live behind our persona. I mean, I often have people say to me, if people really knew what I was like, you know, they wouldn't, whatever, love me, accept me, keep me employed.
Somebody could be going through that right now at 25, 35, 45, 80 or whatever. And it's a time where they're struggling and it's a time where they need to sit back and reflect and say, what part of this do I have some choice in? And the responsibility that comes with recognizing that, am I willing to take that responsibility and face it and live up to it? And if they are, they now reshape their lives. If they're not, they have to turn their back and wait again till the next time. And I truly believe the way life works, it kind of goes like this. Here's a challenge. Not ready? No problem. Next year, here it is again. Ready yet? No problem. And if you won't face the challenge when it's first served up, it'll just keep coming back the rest of your life until you finally do.
You can leave your job, but you see, you arrive at the next job after the honeymoon wears off and you're the same person. You can leave your relationship, you can leave the city, but there's an old saying, everywhere I go, there I am. And it just follows us around all the time. And even though we make a change in the outer condition, we have that temporary euphoria of the newness, but then the honeymoon sort of wears off and then we're back into living life.
I feel that life provides us with experiences that we need to learn about and that we need to understand. And if we do not understand it, it will keep coming at us. As a psychotherapist, I have seen people move from one problem to another. For example, the woman who's married to the alcoholic husband, and then she leaves him and she says, never again, and goes out and chooses another alcoholic husband. I see people repeating their lives like that.
The clear message is that I am choosing not to be responsible for my own actions. And there are consequences to that. There are consequences not only in terms of the immediate effect of that, but there are consequences in terms of what I do to myself.
If she were to take responsibility for her life and try and understand what is her interplay in that, and to understand why life is providing her with that experience, then she becomes wiser. And I believe that the problem then becomes solved. We then face other problems in life, but they're all learning. And once we realize that they're there to teach us something, no matter how difficult, and we're able to solve them, then we get wiser.
And when you do face the challenge, part of that challenge will be recognizing the choice that you've made, the choices that you have, and the responsibility that comes with them. And finally, one day you say, I'm willing to face the responsibility because I want the ability to make the choices and to live my life accordingly. And if you don't want the responsibility, then you have to deny that you have any choice. You have to say it's their fault, it's fault, it's out of my hands.
You know, you talk about choices. When you choose not to take control of your life and choose to let other people make choices for you, then you've abdicated your responsibility, and that's still a choice. You see, it's always a choice. It always boils down to a choice.
I always believed that I had the power to choose, but I always found it easier to give somebody else that choice. You know, even when I went to jail, my choices were go to jail or run. So I chose to go to jail. My second choice wasn't a very good one. The choice when you get to jail is work towards getting out or sit there and doing nothing and staying there. So I chose to work to getting out. I got involved with a program called Breaking Barriers, which is a great program, one of the best that I find in the institutes, and it gives you the tools to work with what you have. And it shows you that you do have choices, and the main theme of it is if it's meant to be, it's up to me.
We can choose to respond to things differently. We can choose to set different direction. And in any given situation, the most important thing to realize is there's a multitude of different choices. Some of them come that we make choices from a position of pain, and of course that perpetuates the pain. Some we make them from a position of pleasure, and then that perpetuates the positive. So we're either constantly making choices to accentuate the negative or the positive.
You know, a lot of people, they do, first thing, they come to Bozhenka and you see them tired, they're so exhausted. It's morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, my third client, just like this. I can't, I'm so tired, I'm yawning. I said, well, where did you leak? He says, huh, what? I said, what is happening with your energy? I mean, it has to be somewhere, it's not in you. Where did it go? He says, well, I don't know. What did you do? He says, I did really nothing. I just had the breakfast and had a shower. I felt great after I woke up, and I am just so exhausted. I don't know what am I going to do. Could you help me? So I said, where do you think this energy went? He says, I don't know. I said, how about on the negative emotion? He says, I don't have negative emotions. Oh, I said, just in the case that you do this little thing for Bozhenka. I said, what do I do? Have a little pen and a little paper over here. And you just go home this afternoon. And whenever the negative emotion does come, it comes through different channels. Let's say it's sunny outside and you say, oh, this is so beautiful. But you say, oh no, it will rain this afternoon. It always rains when I have to go to do this. That's a negative emotion. Put a mark on the paper. Or when you think, well, this blouse looks good on me. Then like, oh no, I'm too fat. It just hangs around my hips. Maybe I should change. That's a negative emotion. So this is just for examples. You say, okay. This lady, it was so fascinating. She went home with this paper and a pen and she would write. Next day, she came to clinic and she says, Bozhenka, you know what happened? I said, what happened? In one afternoon, I made 389 marks on the paper. And she says, this is what I could remember. And the emotions that I couldn't remember even, they come automatically. These negative thoughts do come automatically. Why is this happening? I said, that's all right, calm down. Now you know it's happening. Now you can make a choice. I'm going to teach you. Effort is needed. You will need the effort to stop this, but you can do this. If you stop this production of negative emotions, then you will have more energy. You will feel just great.
So we've got to get back into what I call now moment living, and to realize that our being is like a ship on the sea, a sailing ship. And our mind is really the rudder that steers it, and the positive feeling is the wind that captures the sails and moves the ship along. So you see, the ship will go in whichever direction it's steered. And our mind is the device which steers us into life. So if we're steering into the negative, then our creative faculties expand upon that. If we look for the solution, the answer, and a way to deal with it, then our mind will find creative ways in order to bring about the results or the circumstances or the situations we need.
Making choices means taking responsibilities for our thoughts and for our actions. But it's hard to see the cycles we get trapped in. Mentally, we want change, but emotionally, we fear it. Breaking through this pattern means getting the heart and the mind on side. That can be an overwhelming thing to do.
There are major changes, and some people are willing to make those changes, but it's a lifestyle, it's a mindset that needs to be shifted. And really, it's a matter of Some people just grab it and run with it, and it's the same as anything else in life. The more you put into it, the more you get back. And the people that say, okay, yeah, I can give up all my coffee and I can, you know, cigarettes, excessive alcohol, get rid of the chemicals in my diet, start, you know, cleaning the physical body. With that, with just the cleansing of the physical body, also comes a change in mental and emotional, because they all affect one another. And when people start seeing that, they might not leap the fence immediately. They kind of take 2 steps forward, one step back, but they start seeing the changes. And that makes it easier for them, I think, to realize like the cause and effect.
When we try to make a choice, we often wait for a feeling of safety. We want to know the choice is the right one. The benefits are positive. In effect, we want to be in control. But that desire leads to an ever-ending cycle of disappointment and waiting.
I start to see, wait a minute, I have some choice about that. There's some things I can do about this, regardless of what anybody else says. In other words, no one has to agree that I decided to make myself happy in order for me to go ahead and be happy. And choice is something that starts to make the difference right in there. The people who don't exercise choice there will basically feel like victims. They don't have any control over it. Life is good sometimes, life is bad sometimes. Things go our way, things don't go our way. The people who exercise choice see, I have a lot more influence over that. I don't control life, I don't control the world, I don't even know for sure what all I control. But I do know that I have influences and they're built off of the choices that I make.
Making choices means facing fear. The fear of leaving what's familiar and what's safe. It means really looking at what's going on here and now, not the past and not the future. It means mastering our inner response to the world rather than letting the world master us. Decisions can be tough, but when we choose to take the plunge and enter the whirlwind of change, we come out on the other side with a real sense of being alive.
I mean, I'm at that age where I guess I've pretty well heard it all. I mean, there's not very much out there that upsets me. What upsets me is when people refuse to listen to that inner voice within themselves, when I'm working with somebody, for example, who has been an abuser, when I sense that there is no sense of being sorry, no desire to change, I find that very sad.
I think that the toughest of all choices has to do with what you're going to live by, what value system, what vision you're going to try to actualize. I think that takes more internal communication and debate, where you look at all parts of your nature.
It's not responding to the direction that is within their life. Call it whatever you want to call it, denial. Choosing not to grow, choosing not to be. That's the unforgivable.
It's the greatest battle I think we ever fight, is in the silent chambers of our own soul, as we decide what our life is about and how we're going to live by it. Once you've settled there, once you're centered there, almost all other choices are relatively simple.
It's a balancing out of all the things that we've been created with. Our physicalness, our spiritualness, our mental and intellectualness, and all of those things come into play. And don't let one dominate. You know, use them all to support each other. You know, one of the ways to give your mind a break is not sleep. It's to do something that's kind of mindless. You know, one way to allow yourself to develop that tenacity that you may need to make choices and follow through on them is to take a day or two and just go with the flow of your instincts, so that you're not drained. Your mind's not drained, your heart's not drained, you've got something to give to it and you're going to give it your all.
But I know that there are those who have power over certain areas of my life and over the society in which I live, and I cannot stop what they are doing. And so I get depressed from time to time. I feel discouraged, and I feel lonely. And when those times come, then I try to identify that and get in touch with that and do something very specific. I will go jogging, or I will go swimming, or I will go cycling, or I'll just simply go for a walk.
I need to make some important choices. You know what I might do? Take a few hours and make no choices. Relax. Let my mind wander. Get some energy back into it. And the other thing that we would also work with people on, I think it's very, very important, is that a lot of people consider that the choice is in making a choice like, okay, I'm going to do this. But they have to remember that in addition to that, they have to make a choice to take the action and then follow through with it. So choice doesn't stop with the mental process. There's all the action that must follow that. And again, some people are very disappointed because they think if they go through the process of thinking about it, deliberating, and then making a choice, that it's now done. But the habits are going to slip in as soon as we go back unconscious, as soon as we go back into sort of that routine. You know the feeling like when you can drive home, pull in your driveway, and not remember getting off the freeway? You know, and it's almost scary because you do not remember. You don't remember if the light turned green or not, but you went through the intersection. Okay? So that's what happens to us when we stop, check out and go into pure habit. On the other hand, when you make choices, you're thinking.
Choice. It starts with you. It starts with self-awareness. It starts with recognizing what motivates you. Is it fear or is it faith? Having the faith to make a choice can be a challenging thing. But when you make a choice, when you commit yourself wholeheartedly and begin to take some action, our world becomes a better place, not only for ourselves, but for all the people around us.
If I reach out to someone and that person is touched, that energizes that person. And when that person is touched, that they can return some energy also, and so that can be a building process rather than a destructive one. And I think it's a very key thing. We all need of each other. We can't survive without the helping hand of another human being. I think that is the paradox of our human condition, is that we each have to walk life on our own, but we cannot do it by ourselves.
Every change that an individual makes in their thoughts and their ability to open up and give love is going to affect everyone else. It just takes these little sparks of opening up to create a bigger flow, and it has that domino effect.
So if we come back to that point of seeing how we're all the same, and then we can value and respect our uniqueness and the way we choose to live life, as long as we live it in a manner for the greatest good of all concerned, i.e. the golden rule, do unto others. We got to learn to love and respect each other and come from the point that we're all on this planet. And if we looked at the planet and all the stars, we could say that the planet is like a big spaceship. It's a giant ship, and everybody in humanity is the crew. And so in order for this ship to bring value and to survive and to continue on, we've got to begin to look at the planet as a whole and the individuals as the sharing one common life, expressing it in their own unique way.
Choice. Be grateful for it. It's a powerful thing. Every choice has its effects. How we think and how we act influences countless events and people every day. That's something to keep in mind. For it's not so much what we choose that matters. What matters is the reason the choice was made in the first place. Was it from faith or was it from fear? What matters is that we understand ourselves, that we think for ourselves, that we're open to possibility and we take responsibility. These skills don't instantaneously appear. You build them slowly, patiently, and you work on them your entire life.
When I look back on everything, I am so grateful I'm really grateful for all my questionings and misunderstandings and ups and downs. I'm grateful for broken bones. I'm grateful for missing teeth. I'm grateful for the scars, for being skinny, for being fat. I'm grateful for everything that happened because it had a purpose. My life wasn't wasted.
Once you realize choices can be made, it can transform your life. It's the first step on the road towards freedom. It puts us back in the driver's seat. It's challenging and it takes effort, but the benefit is a life filled with possibility and hope for our future. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Gordon Hassett.
you.